So I would like to welcome you all to today's panel on performance art, activism, and social change in South India. Thank you for being with us this evening. I'd also like to extend a special welcome to our panelists, Zoe Shirini, Bala Swaminathan, David Geer, and Rajashekharan Jesudasan, who will be joining us via pre-recorded video. Thank you for sharing your experiences and talents with the Shansi community. This panel is part of Oberlin Shansi celebration of 70 years of engagement and collaboration with individuals, communities, and institutions in India. For 7 decades, Shansi has sent young professionals to Madurai, Himachal Pradesh, Varanasi, and now the Nilgiris to live and work at partner colleges and NGOs who serve local communities. Similarly, we have welcomed a number of Indian scholars to Oberlin for research and professional development. As we continue to navigate an era of disruption brought on by political uncertainties and a global pandemic, this celebration is exceptionally meaningful to Shansi's staff, volunteers, alumni, and board of trustees. For us, this is not just a moment for reminiscing. Though reflection of our work and our legacy is deeply important, we also recognize that this celebration is an opportunity to look forward, to consider future collaborations with our partner organizations, to showcase the current work of our alumni and our friends, and to explore how we can provide new opportunities for exchange between India and the United States. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Ted Samuel, and I have served as the Deputy Director of Shansi since 2018. But long before I stepped foot on Oberlin's campus, my professional, academic, and artistic career was centered in Madurai. For years, I was a performer of Karahatam, a Tamil folk dance that required me to balance a brass pot on my head. I learned this art form in 2003 on the University of Wisconsin's College Year in India program, which was founded by chance by Joe Elder, one of Shansi's first fellows to India in 1951. As a South Indian American who fumbled through studies of Tamil language and culture, performance art was a dynamic arena of exploration and self-expression that I could not find in classrooms. Through balance, movement, gesture, and the occasional droll facial expression, I was able to embrace and celebrate a piece of Tamil culture that is often overshadowed by classical arts like Bharatanatyam. My study of Karahatam was not limited to form and technique. In fact, it was not restricted to the stage. By studying dance, I had opportunities to meet Karahatam artists of various caste backgrounds and gender identities. As I viewed Karahatam as a means to explore my own identity as an Indian American, I interacted with various communities of performers who saw the dance as a vehicle for socioeconomic mobility and a tool for activism. As I explored the intersections of art and social change in South India nearly 20 years ago, I was influenced by many people on this panel. I had heard stories of countless performers from Oberlin Shansi, like Peter Mayer, Zoe Shirini, Anne Richmond, and David Geer, who drummed, danced, and played music with local artists in traditional and experimental performances. I also benefited from the mentorship of Rajashekharan Jesudasan, a rock and roll and blues musician who happened to be the coordinator of the University of Wisconsin's program and a close friend to generations of Shansi Fellows and visiting scholars. This panel was designed to provide a space for Shansi-affiliated activists and champions of art to share their own experiences with socially engaged performance in India. These stories, like mine, are just as personal as they are professional. While these narratives are just as theoretically rigorous as an academic paper, they were designed to be emotional, meaningful, and accessible. Our panelists will address a range of social issues, including caste-based discrimination, gender inequity, and stigmas associated with HIV/AIDS. They will also share media and performance pieces so that you can see and hear the technique and passion inherent to their art. Time permitting, we will plan for a Q&A at the end of the event. If you have a question or a comment that you'd like a panelist to address, please send me a message directly via the chat function. Also, please stick around to the end of the panel for an exciting announcement about a new Shansi program, which will further our commitment to the arts and our collaboration with partner institutions in India. Starting today's panel will be Zoe Shirini. Zoe is a professor of ethnomusicology at the University of Oklahoma. She has studied and performed Indian music since she was a student at Oberlin in the early 1980s. Having served as the Oberlin Shansi Fellow to Lady Doak College from 1985 to 1987, Zoe has conducted research in India for over 7 non-consecutive years with the support of multiple grants, including 2 Fulbright Fellowships, 2 AIIS Fellowships, and an Asian Arts Council Fellowship. She has published extensively on Tamil folk music, Dalit liberation theology, and the role of Pariah drumming in South Indian social activism. She has also produced and directed 2 award-winning films, which she will discuss today. Zoe is a musician who performs and conducts trainings in the Pariah drum and plays the mridangam and jazz percussion. I am honored to introduce you to Dr. Zoe Shirini.
Thank you. Nandri, vanakkam yalaram. Thank you, Ted. So tonight is about storytelling. My story is a story about friendships nurtured through making music together. It's also a story of my career as an ethnomusicologist that began 37 years ago through becoming an Oberlin Shansi Fellow. So tonight I want to share with you 2 film trailers from my 2 documentary films that I've made in the last 12 years. And they're both on the Pariah drum of the Dalit people of Tamil Nadu, India. First of all, for those of you that may not know, the term Dalit is a self-chosen term, which is a term of anti-caste. At least that's how my teacher talks about it. That brings people together under an umbrella of really politically conscious social activism. The Pariah drum is the word Pariah goes back 2,000 years in Sangam literature. And today, the Pariah drum, which is a frame drum, is being reclaimed as a tool of empowerment by Dalit communities in their civil rights movement for Dalit liberation. I've been working closely with this community for over 30 years. And through this process, I've nurtured some of the dearest friendships that I have in the world. So this is a story about Dalit people using the arts to fight the age-old hierarchy of caste. It's a story about Dalits drumming their liberation and me joining in that groove as an academic, as a filmmaker, as a social activist, and as a musician, and always as an OB. So I'm going to share with you 2 of my 2 trailers. I'm going to start with the first one, which was made in 2011. And the film is called This Is a Music. In Tamil, we would say, Ida Ur Isai. Can you guys see this? Yeah, okay. So it's a little over 5 minutes long. India is one of the last domains of the practice of caste and untouchability in the world. This story is about the battle for human rights, the battle to rid India of untouchability, being fought by the everyday Pariah frame drummers in the Indian village.
This Pariah has given them a polluted identity because they have been drumming at the funerals.
The drum is made from animal skin, considered polluting to the touch by Hindus.
because their very name is given Pariahs. Parai.
The status of folk music and also folk musicians are very, very low. They're just in the fringe. They are not very much part of the society, not like the Carnatic musicians or any other light musicians or temple musicians. Just like in this community, the caste hierarchy is so strong. Even the music, they have a hierarchy.
Essia and Amalraj are two drummers of the Pariah caste. These men and 7 others are members of the drum set group Kurinji Malar. They live in the Cherry or ghetto of the village of Munevendri, near the town of Paramagudi in southeastern Tamil Nadu. I'm an ethnomusicologist. I chose to come to the village of Munevendri to study the Pariah drum with Kurinji Malar because they were at an early stage of professionalizing, yet they still had to negotiate aspects of untouchability and the degraded value of their instrument.
Munevendri and in that region, caste atrocities and caste consciousness have been there for years together. The Pariah and the Chaklier are landless people. They always depend upon the upper caste.
Why it is so important that you have to come and accompany this dead body to the burning god? When we play our drums, the sound of our drum will take the soul to Sorgam. That is the place heaven. That is why they need us.
This Pariah has to be played in front. Otherwise, the people still believe that the spirit of the deity will not come out of the temple.
Without Pariah, you cannot have a festival. Pariah has the capacity to invoke the deity.
You must be the subjects of history, not the objects of history. We don't belong to even this caste system. We are out. We are awareness. Therefore, purity it doesn't have any meaning in our life. What is important is for us humanism, justice, equality. You are going to make history. Cherries will make histories. Chennai Changamam brought a fresh air. There is another world possible.
In January 2009, Kurinji Malar participated as Pariah Atam artists in the 3rd annual Chennai Sangamam Festival. Their positive reception by Chennai citizens significantly shifted their sense of internal pride as drummers.
I consider Chennai Changamam also has contributed to reconstruct the Pariah identity. You know, it gave the total reconstruction of what is to be music festival.
அப்ப அந்த ஒரு இசைக்கு வந்து எவ்வளவு ஒரு மதிப்புன்னு பாத்தீங்களா? ஒரு இசை. மனசுல வந்து எங்க தொழில வந்து அவங்க சீப்பா நினைக்கிறாங்க, அது அப்பாற்பட்ட விஷயம்.
It's a war against untouchability.
எங்க மனசுல எங்களுக்கு வந்து ஒரு கௌரவமான தொழில்.
It's a war to defend the dignity and the pristine glory of Pariah art.
பெருமை எங்களுக்கு பத்தாதா? அருமையான பெருமை அது வந்து போதுமானது.
Okay. All right. So that's the first film. And now I will play you the so that film was called This Is a Music, Reclaiming an Untouchable Drum, finished in 2011. And now I'm going to play Shakti Vibrations. So let me play my second trailer, which is about my second film, Shakti Vibrations, which is about a Tamil folk arts center run by two pretty radical Catholic nuns who are Tamils, and they're using the drum to build self-esteem in young Dalit women. So let me play that for you. Oops. Okay.
நான் ஒரு தலித் பெண்.
இது வந்து என்னுடைய கதை.
நான் ஒரு தலித் சேர்ந்த பொண்ணு. நான் என் கதையை சொல்ல போகிறேன்.
Dalit means broken people. They are not allowed to be a human. They are broken. In the Shakti context, I would say Dalit means the people of the earth.
சக்தி தாயே பூமி தாயே எங்கள் சக்தி தாயே
And the art is this.
காப்பவளே எங்கள் தாயே உயிர் மூச்சாக
I always say in Tamil, மண்ணின் கலைகள் அவை மக்கள் கலைகள். Means the art of the earth is art of the people. So who are the people of the earth? They are the Dalit people.
Okay. All right. That's what I've got. Back to you, Ted.
So I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Bala Swaminathan. So Bala was born in Madurai, Tamil Nadu, and came to the United States in 1990 to earn his degree in computer science from Washington University in St. Louis. While in St. Louis, Bala served as the secretary for the Missouri Tamil Sangam. A few years later, he moved to New York and he started the New York Tamil Academy, a nonprofit organization to teach the Tamil language. In 2017, Bala and his wife Prabha established the Anandavali and Dr. G. Swaminathan Professorship in Tamil at Stony Brook University in New York. In 2018, he became a board member of Tamil Chair Incorporated, a nonprofit created to raise funds and set up a Tamil professorship at Harvard University. Currently, he serves as the secretary for the Federation of Tamil Sangams in North America and is the secretary of the New York Tamil Sangam. Through his work with the Tamil diaspora, Bala has become a champion of Tamil folk arts. We are thrilled to hear about how he is creating pathways for Tamil arts in North America. On to you, Bala.
Thank you, Ted. I guess I have to take you on my roadshow. You give a very strong introduction. Thank you. வணக்கம். அமுதே தமிழே அழகிய மொழியே எனதுயிரே. Let me first thank Oberlin College, Shansi, and our friends at Shansi for giving me this opportunity to reminisce on my life. It is not every day that I do this, but this really brought back some perspective on Tamil arts in particular and life in general. Uh, it was in the summer of 2006. I attended a wedding at my village. It's a very small hamlet near Madurai, about 35 miles southwest. There was something different about the music that was played during the ceremony. It was more upbeat than solemn. It was truly pulling you in than keeping you nodding and hoping that when will the ceremony end so that we can get to the lunch. This music was definitely an invitation for the audience to participate and join in on the moment. It was my introduction to Parai as a music that is fit for all occasions, even one that begins a couple's life. I wanted to join the dance, but I was just returned. I was just visiting from the US and was very self-conscious, and there were all my relatives watching, and I simply sat in my chair quietly. But apparently, I was tapping my feet. I felt a tug in my shirt, and there was this little girl, probably four-ish, and she said, "Can I say something?" I said, "Sure." And she got up and then whispered in my ear, "Don't be self-conscious. Just do it." So I went in and then I joined in on the dance, and I thanked that little girl for that. I had always thought of parai as an instrument or the music associated with death. Now I went through almost 40 years of my life with that wrong notion. Then I researched after I came back, returned from the wedding. I researched and found it to be the chosen announcement drum by the kings and the states. The phrase "parai satra" itself means to proclaim. However, it has been relegated to death by perhaps the graded inequality of caste system, which came into the Tamil countries in the post-Sangam era. In fact, there is a Naladiyar poem, which I would like to say it in Tamil, and then I'll give the meaning. மன்றம் கரங்க மணப்பறை ஆயின அன்று அவர்க்கே ஆங்கே பிணப்பறை பின்றை ஒலித்தலும் உண்டாம் என்று உயிந்து போம் வலிக்குமாம் மாண்டார் மனம். So basically, this one says, the parais that beat auspiciously on the wedding halls of this couple may shroud their funeral someday. So this truth is known to the great people, and they understand the fragility of life and lead a life of virtuosity. So that section talks about how life is ephemeral, and they used this parai as an example. So parai started making its foray into, I returned to US in 2000, I think 2006 December, and then the parai itself started making its foray into the USA. The FETNA main stage event over 10 years ago took parai to the next level. Over the next few years, parai groups were formed in various Tamil Sangams, and Tamils started identifying with parai. With a few friends, I also formally registered and started the New York Tamil Academy, a school to teach Tamil language in Long Island. On our first annual day in 2011, we had Pariah Drum. It's a surprise. That's the first time the parai sounded in Long Island, I would say. Ever since, parai dance has been a staple in NYTA's annual days. And the dinner break, we usually announce, because the people come at 3 o'clock, and then there will be students' activities, and then dinner break, and then you'll have more programs. So dinner break is usually announced. We announced it with the kids leading those in attendance with the parai procession. So nowadays, at around 5:30, people will start asking, "Eppa parai adikum?" So people started associating parai with good things to come. In this case, sumptuous dinner, which is a good thing. When my good friend Porchelian formed this ITPA, the International Tamil Performing Arts Association, I supported it and also became a board member of ITPA. My wife and I hosted Dr. Arul Chelvi and her husband at our home, and they had a first Pariah session. Gavin, if you have access to one of those Pariah training videos, you can play it for a few seconds. Is Gavin there? Yeah. Yeah, this is actually Shakti playing. The other video is the one that Arul Selvi was teaching, which is okay, because I was going to say that. Do you have that other video? Oh, that's okay. Yeah, hold this one. Excellent. So you saw the Pariah workshop, and that we had Dr. Arul Selvi conduct a Pariah workshop at our home, and then that is Mr. Shakti. He came to Long Island, and then he conducted a very elaborate Pariah, because that we were invited by the temple itself to come and join on the parade to play the Pariah. So we thought that we need some new beats and we need it to be perfect. So we had the Shakti come in and then do the Pariah workshop. So as this was going on, soon a core Pariah group was formed in New York. So our Pariah group has played Pariah on Indian Independence Day parades in Long Island and Indian Independence Day parades in Manhattan in front of Kamal Hassan. He was the parade master that year. We even were invited to do our Pariah as part of the procession by Ganesh Temple, which you saw. I realized that Pariah has finally found its rightful place when, as part of the celebrations of the 75th year of independence, the New York Pariah group played Pariah at the Consulate General of India's office in New York itself. I mean, all I can say is Pariah is for all occasions. There is pride in playing it and joy in dancing to its beats. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to recount my experience with the Pariah drum. I would like to show you some pictures and give some quick commentary on them if you can. So this is the images. As you can see behind, there is a car, festival car, the temple car there. This is the one that we did in the Ganesh temple. And this is again another one in the Ganesh temple. This is our Pariah group playing before the India Independence Day parade in Long Island. And this is Pariah at New York Tamil Academy. As you can see, the New York Tamil Academy banner there. And it's another one of those. This is in Manhattan, on the streets of Manhattan in 2018, and our Pariah group and the other Pariah groups also joined us. We played Pariah group and Vailatam on the back during the India Independence Day parade, where Kamal Hassan was the parade master. And this is more of that. You can see New York NYTA and New York Tamil Academy stuff in there. There are more nice pictures. These are some of the ladies who participated. So this is the float that we had, where the Pariah float on that day. And Ward Melville Heritage Organization, they had a Diwali festival. As part of the festival, they invited us to come in and play in the festival. So we played that. So Diwali Celebration of Lights. So our Pariah group played. And this is part of the WHMO Pariah Festival. Oh, sorry. And this is the Pariah group. One of our Pariah group leads, he's Perry. He went and practiced more and then played in India and in Tamil Nadu, and there he got one of the awards for it. So Kalai Vendra Virdu, so it's the king of art, so which is nice. And this is the one we played in the Tamil Nadu Foundation. This is for charity purposes. So we raised some money by playing Pariah. And this is at the New York Tamil Sangam, where the New York Pariah group was playing. And in the Queens at an India Day parade, so that was also came. And of course, our Pariah group was there. So that was photographed and put it in there. It looks novel for the people who are coming. So all the photographers surround this group because it's very colorful and then it's upbeat and they are dancing. It's very interesting that their cameras weren't shaking because they were dancing. This was in Stony Brook when Zoe was here. You can see She's standing on the right. This was at the CGI, Consulate General of India. It was in last year and as part of the 75th celebrations. So we had a couple of pictures. And this is when Dr. Arul Salvi came. We started off like this, and we started practicing ourselves before the event. And it's a good memory. So Pariah has always been part of the Tamil people, and it has really become an identity for the Tamils in Tamil Nadu as well as in the USA. In the USA, Tamils use Pariah as a form of rebellious display of anti-caste. And as I said, there is pride in playing it and joy in dancing to its beats. Thank you, Dad.
Thank you so much, Bala. And now I'd like to introduce you to our next speaker, David Gear. David is a professor of arts activism at UCLA's Department of World Arts and Cultures, and he's also the founder and director of the UCLA Art and Global Health Center. He was the Shansi rep to Motherize American College from 1980 to 1982. And we are so honored to have him share his history of working on arts-based activist projects that address the stigma surrounding HIV and AIDS. On to you, David.
Thank you, Ted. So to begin, believe it or not, that's me. The younger, better version of me, the 22-year-old me, within days of having arrived in India in 1980. I actually remember having this photo taken because I was so nervous about interacting with the fellow who ran the photography shop using my fledgling Tamil. I practiced. Vanakkam sir, oru visa photo edukka mudiyuma? I felt excited, but frankly lost and out of my element. I would describe myself at that time as a very unsophisticated Oberlin grad from a much smaller than Madurai town in central New York, who without any significant prior planning had landed a 2-year fellowship to teach at American College in South India. Madurai teriyuma, American Kaluri teriyuma. I'd been studying piano, modern dance, and religion at Oberlin, and was essentially commissioned a year after Leslie Kennedy's sojourn at Lady Doak College to restart the Shansi connection at the nearby men's college. Given the fact that I'd been born on the other side of the earth, white, middle class, the experience of living in Madurai made me hyper-aware of how fundamentally different I was from everyone around me in my new environment. Could I identify with anyone in my new world? Could anyone in my new world identify with me? This is Raju, a young man whom I met a decade ago in Mumbai. He's from the eastern state of Andhra Pradesh, but moved to the other side of the country, to Mumbai, as an adult. You could say that his life has been fairly unremarkable, working as a clerk in an office, marrying young, loving his parents, except for one thing. He's HIV positive and open about it. Can you tell from his photo? More importantly, now that you know he's HIV positive, can you identify with him? I start my storytelling today by setting Raju and me side by side because I want to acknowledge at the outset how important, how very important, the Oberlin Shansi Fellowship has been to me throughout my life, and how it has contributed to my current arts activism. My early experiences in Madurai not only taught me to recognize and respect difference, but also confirmed for me that despite our differences, we humans remain capable of identifying with and connecting with one another. For me, this basic human ability to connect is especially significant in relation to HIV and AIDS, which was beginning to circulate in South India in the early 1980s when I was there, even as the first global cases were noted and reported in 1981 at UCLA, my home institution here in Los Angeles. After my time at American College, I joined a program in ethnomusicology at the University of Hawaii. I moved to San Francisco in 1985 to become an arts critic, where I quickly came to realize that virtually all new art of that time was created in the shadow of AIDS. I wrote a book about that, especially about AIDS and choreography, after which I started reading in the news media about an uptick of HIV cases in Tamil Nadu and throughout India. I applied for a Fulbright in India to learn about the ways that artists, ranging from dancers to puppeteers to filmmakers, were intervening in the AIDS epidemic there. I packed up my family, my husband and our 2 young kids. Destination, Bangalore. Our Artivist Consortium became known as the Make Art Stop AIDS Network, and we began together as an arts collective to chip away at the one thing that prevents infected people from accessing good, available treatment, and that is stigma. Before long, we had created an international project designed to reinforce identification across difference and to reduce or even banish, that's my favorite word, by the way, AIDS stigma. The project is called Through Positive Eyes, a photographic and textual journey through a dozen cities around the world, including Mumbai. 15 years later, that project is still going strong. The purpose of Through Positive Eyes is to break down stigma by helping viewers identify with real people who are living with HIV and who are nonetheless making their lives work. They're very much alive. The thumbnail portraits are taken by Gideon Mendel, my South African collaborator, but the bulk of the images are taken by the participants themselves, and the words are their words from interviews. The interviews are my contribution. Which brings us to the 150 people around the world whom we call artivists, because they are both artists and activists, telling their stories in their own words just as they appear online today at throughpositiveeyes.org. One of those 150 artivists is Raju, who tells his story here in his own words, paired with his own images.
मेरा नाम राजू। पहले पॉजिटिव होके मैं अंधेरा हो गया। उसी टाइम में ब्लड का वो लोग चेकअप करने लगा तो उसका पॉजिटिव करके रिजल्ट आया। एक मिस्टेक की वजह से मेरा लाइफ बिगड़ गया। मेरा फैमिली मेरे ऊपर जी रहे, ऐसा हो गया। अभी क्या करूँ समझ में नहीं आ रहा था। ऊपर गया था बिल्डिंग के ऊपर, मैं सुसाइड करूँगा। वाला बात थोड़ा टाइम रुका, फिर नहीं ऐसा लोग हज़ारों लोग हैं होगा ऐसा, तो उससे जाने दो, अपना लाइफ दूसरा लाइफ चालू हो गया अभी। वाला दूसरा लाइफ मिल गया। घर पे आने के बाद वाइफ को कैसे बताओ, हम लोग फिर दोनों, वो और मैं, फिर 8 दिन के बाद ऐसे ही बाहर लेके गया उसको, ऐसा हो गया करके आराम से समझाया थोड़ा, वो भी टेंशन में हो गया। बाद में उसको समझा के फिर हॉस्पिटल लेके गया, फिर उसका चेकअप किया तो उसका नेगेटिव निकला। मैं बोला थैंक गॉड, वो तो बच गया। हम लोग ने डिसाइड किया अभी क्या करो ज़िंदगी, अभी उसका नेगेटिव मैं पॉजिटिव, कैसे रहने का तुम्हारा ऊपर है। तुमको रहने का है तो रह सकते हैं, अगर नहीं रहने का तो मैं खुद डाइवर्ट दे देता हूँ। आपका ज़िंदगी जैसा है ऐसा तुम्हारा इच्छा। मेरा वाइफ शादी हो गया, अभी 1 ईयर हो गया साल में। अभी धीरे धीरे मेरा उजाला आ रहा है मेरा ज़िंदगी में। कैमरा मेरे हाथ में आने के बाद मेरे को लगा मेरा ज़िंदगी में एक नया एक चांस मिला मेरे को। मेरा ज़िंदगी का भी फोटोग्राफी निकालूं और मैं एक अच्छा फोटोग्राफर बनूं इससे। मेरा लाइफ में तो सब मिक्सिंग ही है, सुखी दुखी अंधेरा उजाला सब है। इसके लिए मैं सोचा मेरा इसमें फोटोग्राफी में भी पूरा मिक्स होना मांगता है मेरा लाइफ का। जितना जने पॉजिटिव लोग को मैं यही संदेश देना चाहता हूँ, मेरा जैसा ज़िंदगी किसी को नहीं आना चाहिए और मेरे से तकलीफ होए मेरे को देख के आराम से खुशी से जियो। मेरा लाइफ इतना तकलीफ में है फिर भी मैं खुशी से जी रहा हूँ, मेरा जैसा आप लोग भी जियो करके मैं उन लोग को बोलना चाहता हूँ।
And I'll now just end there with a thank you to Raju and also a thank you to Shansi. Thanks so much. And now over to my favorite international rock star to be introduced by Ted.
Yes, thank you so much, David. And as you mentioned, our next panelist, well, he doesn't really need much of an introduction. Rajashekaran Jesuthasan has served as the resident rock and roll musician in Madurai for 50 years. In fact, some posit that there is a competition between Shaker and Mick Jagger to see who will be the last to retire. Just for the record, my money is on Shaker. In addition to his storied career as a musician, Shaker has welcomed countless visitors to Madurai over the last several decades. He has served as the coordinator of the University of Wisconsin's College Year in India program, where he mentored a number of budding researchers and artists. He's also formed several bands, which included a number of Shansi Fellows on today's panel. Given that it is exceptionally early in India, Shaker is joining us via pre-recorded video. I actually had the honor of meeting up with Shaker in Madurai just a few weeks ago and recorded our conversation where he talked about his career and his music. If logistics permit, he may join us for the question and answer session. So please, on to Shaker.
When I came to college, that's American college, to do my bachelor's course, degree course, I was thinking in terms of doing an alternative music. That was my idea, because by then I was listening to a lot of music from Bob Dylan, Rolling Stones, Paul Simon and Garfunkel, all these people. Why can't we do it like this in India? That is my big ambition. That's how I started. But along with that, I also wanted to, say something what I feel about what's happening around me. Before I could start writing songs of my own, I was not very courageous to do that. I thought my Tamil wouldn't be that good to write songs. Then our professor Vipaka Sundaram from American College, he said, Shaker, why don't you try translating the songs first? If you can definitely write a song, try translating them. Then move to the next step, he said. Vipaka Sundaram told me. Then I picked up this song. This song is called the Midnight Special. Nobody knows who wrote this song.
It's one of the blues book I found this song. About others, nothing. All the others, have others. This is, nobody knows who wrote this song at all. But it has a nice story. The prisoners in Sugarland prison, waiting for their wives to come and visit them and go. And the train that brings them is called, in the Sugarland, there is an express that comes in the midnight. So they have a strong belief, if the midnight express headlight of the train shines into any of the cell, the prisoner in the cell will get free. There was a belief among the prisoners. So they say, let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. They sing this song. Oh, so I thought, wow, this is good. Then I thought, instead of, this song, you can translate it, adaptation to our own culture. Why don't we do this? Then I heard the other line. Yonder comes Miss Mary. Tell me, how do you know? I can tell her by the apron and the dress she wore. Ado varudhu en rojaappu in Tamil. Eppadi theriyum sollu. Aval adayala chinnam, her identity. Soappu jacket da, red jacket da. Malligai konda koondal. Jasmine flower, I don't know. Kaiyil jail pass. So I started, adapting this. So why don't I just sing that song for you instead of talking about it, okay? Kalalendricha koodu kondu varran paaru uppu pathalenu sonna poduvaanalu மாமியார் வீடு பாரு மரியாதை ஜோறு இன்னும் வேணும் கேடு நிறைய இருக்கு கூறு மாமதுரை பக்கம் போனா கவனம் வேணும்டா கண்ணு தள்ளாடாதே ஆடி பாடாதே போலீஸ்கார கைது செய்மா சந்தேக கேசு உள்ள வைப்பா அன்று முதல் இந்த கதி Central Jail down all at the midnight special shine a light on me. The midnight special shine a light on me. Hello, varudhu en rojaappu eppadi theriyum sollu. Aval adayala chinnam soappu jacket da malligai konda koondal கையில் ஜெயில் பாசு அவள் வாடலிடம் சொன்னா மச்சான பார்க்கணும். All at the midnight special shine a light on me. All at the midnight special shine a light on me. படிச்ச பட்டதாரிக்கு மதிப்பு கிடைக்கும் இடத்தை பாரு. ஜெயிலின் பி கிளாஸ் உனக்கு வசதி பல உண்டு. கொசுவலை நல்ல கட்டில் ஸ்பெஷல் சாப்பாடு மாமியார் வீட்டு மரியாதை என்றால் இது வல்லவோ. All at the midnight special shine a light on me. All at the midnight special shine a light on me. Another reason I wrote this song, while you were studying in the college, you would go for jail visiting, visit jail. the Madurai Central Jail. So the reason, that time the literacy rate in India was pretty low. So we go with a lot of postcards, go and write letters for the prisoners to their homes. Whatever they say, we write to them. That was part of our work. That is the time I found out some graduates who are staying in very comfortable position. I thought, wow, fantastic. This is when if you're a graduate, you get a special prison like this. That's why I included in my song in that line. This particular kind of music, blues, lends itself so beautifully to Tamil language. And the music structure is also perfect. So that is why I picked up blues to write all my songs to begin with. Then I moved to another style. So it's high time you start writing your own song. Then I started looking for a theme. Dowry was a very big menace at the time. So I thought probably I should talk about it. Everybody's talking about Varadachai, dowry, this problem in India. So why can't I just write a song and tell them what I think about dowry? As you said earlier, this theme seems to be a more cliche. It's a very cliche, but still, we keep hearing about deaths every day almost. So let's just write it. That's what happened. We started writing this song. But recently, about 2 weeks back, in a paper, big news, in Delhi, there is a book publication company which has published this book for nursing courses. They started glorifying dowry, saying things like, even an ugly girl can get married. Dowry helps. Even a girl with dark skin can get married. Dowry helps. People, media, everywhere on stage, a lot of debates, people just killing it. Man, so he really didn't die out. It's still very much alive. Seems like the dowry situation is never going to die in this country. Varadachana Veda Vasanta Venu Vasanta Irundana Varave Thorum Kattikolvadukku Kaasu Keppena Kattikolvadukku Kaasu Keppena Kattavandi Ilutthedum Kanji Utta Mattena Kattavandi Ilutthedum Kanji Utta Mattena Varadachana Vendam Vasanta Venum Vasanta Irundana Varave Thorum சொந்தத்தை விலை பேச சொல்ல கெட்டவளா சொந்தத்தை விலை பேச சொல்ல கெட்டவளா பெண் துணையாய் வருவதற்கு வேறும் சொல்வேனா நான் பெண் துணையாய் வருவதற்கு வேறும் சொல்வேனா வரதட்சண வேண்டாம் Vasanta Venum Vasanta Irundana Varave Thorum. This goes for the parents. Because what happens when you ask these kids, how come you took the dowry? It's not me, man. My parents, they really demanded dowry. So I had to go with my parents. This is what the young men say. Ennai petra periyavare idai kettira Ennai petra periyavare idai kettira idai ketta pinnalum padam kettira நீர் இதை கேட்ட பின்னாலும் பணம் கேட்பீரா வரதட்சண வேண்டாம் வசந்த வேணும் வசந்த இருந்தா வாழவே தோணும்
Thank you so much, Shaker. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Bala. And thank you, David. Thank you for sharing your talent and your stories with the Shansi community. We will open up to a brief Q&A. If you want to ask a question to any of the panelists, feel free to send me a message via chat. But before we launch into the Q&A, I do have an exciting announcement. As you can see through the stories of these panelists, Shansi has a long history of engaging in performance art. In the next 2 years, we are hoping to further our commitment to South Indian artistic and professional exchange through a new program. The current working title for this is the Visiting Artists and Practitioners Program. Much like our Visiting Scholars Program, which brings young faculty from partner institutions in Asia to Oberlin for research and professional development, the VAP program will bring South Indian musicians, dancers, activists, and environmentalists to Northern Ohio to share their expertise and to collaborate with artists and experts here in Lorain County. We have already begun raising funds for this program and are committed to running 3 iterations of it, with the first offering an international opportunity for Indigenous Adivasi musicians who are connected to our newest partner, the Keystone Foundation in the Nilgiris. If you are interested in learning more about this program, or if you're interested in supporting it, please send an email to shansi@oberlin.edu. And please note that we will be discussing this program in more detail at an online town hall and on our website later this summer. So I would open the floor to questions, but I'm not seeing any in the chat. There was some clarification earlier in our conversation about Joe Elder being the first fellow. I mentioned he was one of the first in the sense that he was one of 3 fellows who arrived in 1951. So yes, Joe was among the very first fellows of Oberlin Shansi, and we had the wonderful opportunity of honoring him last October at the University of Wisconsin South Asia conference. Any questions, any thoughts? If the panelists would like to add anything, you're more than welcome to.
I'd like to ask Zoe a question.
Sure.
If I may. Zoe, I'm flipped out by those Catholic nuns. And want to know more about them and about how you got yourself connected to them in order to really understand how this whole Shakti thing came about.
Sure. Is Shannon Dudley still with us? I don't think he is. What's interesting is about the town of Dindigal is also where Shannon's grandfather worked as a missionary in the early 20th century. Anyway, yeah, so how I got connected to them was through the Tamil Nadu Theological Seminary in Madurai. They ran, for about 5 years, they ran a Dalit Arts Festival, Dalit Kalavira. And it was really one of the first staging of, like folkloric staging of these practices. And so Shakti formed in the early 1990s, and they participated in that. And I was working very closely at the Tamil Nadu Theological Seminary, and that's how I found out about them. But the school that they run is what do you call it? An educational trust. So it's kind of like an NGO. An educational NGO, and it's really separate from the church. This is what people ask me a lot about. It doesn't have any direct funding from the church, and these sisters are really able to, very independently do their teaching and their pedagogy that really comes through in the film.
One other kind of related clarification.
Yeah.
The older woman who spoke so eloquently about the Dalits being people of the earth.
Right.
Was she one of the sisters or
Yeah. She's the older sister, Sister Chandra, who's really in charge. And yeah. They're amazing. Their pedagogy is what's really so important to this process. Yeah.
Her love and dedication was definitely coming through in the commentary.
Great.
Great work.
I would love to see everyone's faces if everyone wants to open up their videos at this point. Just a greater sense of community among us. Yay, hi everybody. Other thoughts and questions?
My question is, I know the root word for panchma, how it is derived, but I need to know what the root word for para, paraya, parachi is. How did it originate as that?
Bala, do you want to address any of that?
I beg your pardon?
We're going to give you an answer, sir.
Okay.
Yeah? Bala?
Parai, it's a two-letter word. Not sure if it has a root. Arai, parai, annar is it's a word that is in Tirukural itself. So it's from the Sangam literature itself. It's there. So parai is one of the, in Tolkappiyam, parai is used as a word for proclamation.
Mm-hmm.
So and that is the sense that Malayalam uses that word also. Inda parayam means what are you saying? In Malayalam, parai would mean to speak, to say. And when the instrument itself is used for proclamation of announcements, so it is kind of it became the word, I would imagine. I wouldn't take that to the bank, but I can imagine that why that instrument is called parai, because it is initially beaten to make announcements.
Yes, I would completely agree that it reflects the occupation of the drummers.
Right.
That their purpose is to announce what I say is both auspicious and inauspicious events, in the ritual events in the village, or in general. And what's beautiful is that there are 44 incidences of this word of parai in Sangam literature, so 2,000 years ago. And some of them refer to drums generally, like many different types of drums. Some of them refer to specific instruments, and sometimes they have like chinna parai or small parai, or associated with a particular por parai, to play for war, for example. But this is a really interesting question that I'm trying to explore in my research. So then how does the word, parear then gets associated with pariah and outcast? That all happens later, I think. Oh, you're muted, sir.
Vanakkam ellarkum. Yeah, now my name is Guru, and this is Adriana, and we are now in Oberlin College, invited for a contact improvisation 6 months residency. And we have been dancing here and researching for the past 6 months. And for teachers, and she introduced Gavin to us, and we came to know about Shansi, and it's very enriching to see the link between what has happened, and it's nice. It feels better because I was also back home working and teaching for some of the traditional Parai people, some of the improvisational forms in Chennai. And it's interesting to see, and I'm happy to share. this link which just happened to be like this. And thank you, Anne, for meeting, and Gavin for inviting this webinar. Thank you. Would you like to?
I'm a friend of Zoe and Lupna in Oklahoma City, and I came on because I love them and I love diversity, and I loved hearing the Midnight Special in 2 languages.
Me too.
Thank you, Batch. Batch is our runs the Peace House in Oklahoma City and is very involved in lots of local activism and is a guitarist himself. And I knew you would like that song.
Thank you, thank you. Are there any last thoughts or questions for any of the panelists? Well, I would like to thank you all so much for attending this wonderful event. Thank you to the panelists for sharing your passion and for sharing your art. We will be having more events over the summer, so please check out our website, and you will definitely be getting an invite, and we hope to talk to you more about everything that's going on with Shansi in India. Thank you so much.